coming at you with today's live stream. We are talking about the top 5 beginner mistakes. Top 5? 4. 4.5. 4.5 beginner mistakes, beginner weightlifter mistakes for women over 40. Even if you're not a woman over 40, you'll still get something out of it. But yeah, top beginner mistakes for women over 40. Over 40. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the top mistakes that I see over and over and over again that holds you back, that keeps you from making progress, that makes you feel like a failure when you're not. Number 1, believing that your gender makes the rules different. Doesn't. Okay. First, top 5 mistakes for women over 40. If you're watching this on the replay and you clicked on it because of the title and you said, I'm a woman over 40, I want to find out what mistakes I'm making. The first mistake is thinking that your gender changes the rules of weightlifting or of nutrition. It does not. It does not. It can. It does make some things harder, slower, make some things a bit of a slog, but it does not change the fundamental rules. One of those fundamental rules, progressive overload principle. You will get stronger by lifting progressively heavier, by pushing the limits of what you can actually do. Which brings me to the next point of the biggest mistakes that I see women over 40 making, not lifting heavy enough. This is so important. Where to begin? I think part of it is the fact that we grew up through generations of believing that somehow toning and mass building were two different things that we would adapt to. Like if we accidentally lifted too heavy, we would somehow bulk up into this giant hulkly kind of mass. I wish it was that easy. It is not. If you are on the female end of the gender spectrum, for all intents and purposes, for physical adaptation things, you will not just bulk up like that. You need a lot of extra chemical hormonal help for that to happen. And even with that chemical help, it takes so much time, way more time than you want it to. Way more time than you want it to. Ask any transgender man who is on hormone therapy, and he will tell you that, yeah, taking the hormones doesn't magically make you into hulky man bod, okay? It just doesn't. So if you're concerned as someone who identifies as a woman over 40, that you will get bulked out and hulked out by lifting heavy, number 1, you just won't. And number 2, if you're not using that progressive overload, progressively lifting heavier, you are doing your body a major disservice, not only for the sake of your metabolism, but for the sake of your bone density, which absolutely should be a concern in your demographic. So, not lifting heavy enough, which ties into not purchasing heavy enough of weights when we are purchasing equipment for at-home workouts. Okay, so you're at the store, you're like, okay, I'm working out at home, I'm gonna do the dang thing, I'm gonna be a rock star, staying out of them nasty gyms because I don't want to go waste my time, I don't want to have to worry about whether I'm gonna get the virus, or be subject to leering weirdos at the gym, so I'm gonna work out at home. Awesome. If you're not already a member of the Nerd Gym, I'll help you out with that. Let me know. But you're getting your weights. How heavy should I get? My suggestion, get a weight that you can overhead press no more than 5 times. If you're just getting one, if you're just getting one, start with something that you cannot do a good solid overhead press with more than 5 times. Got shoulder injuries? Use the bicep curl as your test exercise instead. Both of those exercises, either an overhead press or a bicep curl, very easy to do in the shops. So while you're there, if you're at like a physical location, like a Walmart or Play It Against Sports or wherever you get your sporting goods these days, if you're doing an in-person thing. If you're ordering online, obviously you have to guesstimate a little bit more perhaps, but if you're in the actual shops, do please test it out. If you can do about 5 with good form and not many more than that, like not more than a couple more than that, that is a good starting weight to grow into. That is a good starting weight to grow into. And then you expand your collection forwards and backwards out of that. So yeah, let's say you've got, okay, I can really just barely press that 20-pound dumbbell overhead. After that 20-pound, bump it down, get some 15s, bump it up, get some 25s. And that would be like the first 3 sets of dumbbells I would get in that scenario, okay? And this goes for anyone. Anyone. If you are developing your at-home gym, make sure you start with a heavy 5-rep weight and then move out lower and higher from that to build your collection. All right. So, number 1 mistake for women over 40, thinking that being a woman over 40 changes the rules of weightlifting. It does not. You still want to lift heavy. You want to make sure that your selection in weights reflects that. You still have to exert yourself. You still have to put in the effort, okay? Next mistake I see women over 40 making all the time, thinking that spot training is a thing. It isn't, y'all. If you want to get rid of that underarm flab, if you want to get rid of the belly, all those little problem areas, those problem areas are going to go away as all of your fat loss happens together, okay? As all of your body gets stronger together. The reason, if I seem a little aggro about this whole thing, the reason is not that I'm mad at you. I am not mad at you. I am mad at the fitness industry, y'all. The fitness industry has been pitching this BS line of like spot toning and for women versus for men, this very gendered kind of like sales pitch saying like, oh, if you're not making progress, it's because you're doing the wrong workout for your gender. It's like, oh no, no fitness industry, bad fitness industry. Back up, make sure that you understand that these are marketing terms that are designed to grab you and make you think that this is the one thing, that one weird trick that you need to overcome the issues you've been having. And I am here to cut through the BS and tell you that the thing that you need to do is the same thing that's been working for literally hundreds of years for people all across the gender spectrums, all across the age groups. Heavy lifting, eating the right amount of calories, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Okay, so make sure you get the right weights to reflect the heavy lifting that you ought to be doing for that gorgeous bod. And you can fine tune it from there. I do recommend getting a coach, unless this is something that you want to be a full-time hobby, is like figuring these things out, little A/B testing, all that kind of stuff. I'm totally up for some self-experimentation, but if you want to shortcut and not do all that, hit me up. Nerd Gym is where to find me. Okay, so spot training. So there are certain things we can do to increase the muscle size, shape, to sort of fill out the flabby sack of flesh that we become when we lose fat really fast, right? And if this is something that's disconcerting to you, definitely check out the Fat Loss Mindset video. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens to the body as we lose fat. It doesn't necessarily lose fat evenly. Sometimes we lose from top down. Sometimes we lose more on one side of our body than the other in certain areas. It's very weird. The whole body can be a total mess when it comes to the actual process of losing the fat and how that whole thing goes. But as you're doing this, if you are doing heavy strength training and you want to increase, if you want to do toning, as it's usually marketed to women, toning, it's the same thing as mass gain. It's the same thing as hypertrophy. It's heavy lifting, but a little bit more volume than just heavy lifting low reps. We want to go heavy lifting, more reps. So more is more when it comes to toning and getting the muscles sculpted and shaped, which will ultimately allow us to feel more firm and strong and amazing, which is great, okay? So yes, make sure that you are, you don't shy away from the heavy lifting. Of course, you want to make sure that you are using good form and everything. I think part of the reason why we tend to shy away from that as we get older is, especially as you get like past your 30s, weird stuff happens where you'll like wake up with your shoulder like injured for some weird reason, and you get a little gun shy about like, I don't want to hurt myself, I'm gonna lift light, and then we like that message about like, oh, women shouldn't lift too heavy, just lift light, and you're like, yeah, that sounds so gentle and nice. The problem is you're not going to actually make any progress. You're not going to fortify your body if you do that. If you just do light and easy and easier, like light and easy at the beginning, first 6 weeks of training, you'll still make progress in your first 6 weeks of training, pretty much no matter what you do. But after that, you really have to look at pushing the envelope of what you're capable of during the workout in the context of good form. And that will get you to that next level. Next thing we're going to talk about, nutrition. Now, I will say that because of the gender identity that you have, if you are a woman over 40, you likely have dieted more than a lot of other people, okay? You have maybe been on a diet or have been calorie restricting for a long period of time. If this is the case and you find that you are not losing weight, even though you're trying to, even though you feel like you've been dieting for a really long time and maybe you've been on a very calorie restricted for a very long time, you may need to first increase your caloric intake before you decrease your caloric intake. And I know that's not the answer that a lot of folks want to hear, but unfortunately, if you've been very low calorie for a very long time, like if you've been on a 1200 calorie or less diet for like 6 months and nothing's happening and nothing's moving, chances are your metabolism has dropped to meet you down at the calories that you're at, and you're going to have to gradually increase those calories first. Increase the calories first as you increase your weightlifting and ramp up your total metabolism and your total calorie burn before you can actually successfully diet again. So again, a lot of the problems that we face as women over 40 have to do with the habits that we've established over 20 plus years. Chronic dieting, chronic lifting too light, chronic doing too much high stress kind of activities and not enough acute bouts of stress, like, you know, getting a good solid weightlifting session and heavy weights and then resting appropriately afterwards. I think it's probably a much more common problem among female identifying people that we tend to over exercise, right? Like I'm gonna do like 3 hours of cardio every single day and I'm gonna, you know, drop my calories to like super low and all this kind of stuff. All those things, high stress, high chronic stress, over exercising, under eating your calories will drop your metabolism over time. So the solution to that is a longer term. You got to have a longer term view of it, because while I have worked with some people who have successfully lost weight while adding calories, more often than not you have to go through a phase of gaining weight before you can lose weight successfully and for the long term. So we want to repair the metabolism. If your habits, if you have fallen victim to this, you know, workouts for women labeling, and you have been doing these very, you know, like long duration cardio, low calorie type of plans, because that's what was marketed to you, you have to like put that stuff in the ditch and do the same thing that has been honestly marketed to men more, which is the basic heavy lifting, push-pull movements, like a good basic, you know, four lift kind of program, low reps, heavy weight, 5x5 programs are great, and doing smaller chunks of higher intensity works with more rest in between, increasing the calories first before you try dieting again, making sure that that metabolism is ramped up. And chances are, if you do it methodically, if you gradually increase your caloric intake as you're going, you won't even have to necessarily ramp down again. You may start losing excess body fat as you increase the calories. That does sometimes happen. Not all the time, but sometimes it does happen, which is super cool. So those are my top recommendations. If you are a woman over 40 and you're like, yeah, what are the top mistakes for women over 40 in fitness? It is, number one, thinking that your gender changes the rules. It does not. It's still heavy weightlifting. It's still eating good food, the right caloric intake for your body, and doing that methodically, building up methodically, right? There's no real shortcut there. Hate to break it to y'all. No shortcut, no weird trick in this one. Just good old-fashioned hard work, and don't be scared of the weights. All right, y'all. Until next time, have a lovely